Redditors who have been on a reality TV show, what are some of the off-screen secrets we aren't supposed to know? I worked for a bakery that was on, and won, Cupcake Wars. The premise of the show is to surprise the bakers with a few, more often than not, odd ingredients and see what they're really made of. In reality, we found out the ingredients a few months before the show. Had we not known, there's no doubt we'd have lost. There are definitely people who thrive under pressure, both in performance and creativity, and they have better things to do with their time than crank out cupcakes for Food Network. Tell an unprepared contestant they have 40 minutes to make a delicious cupcake using tater tots, and 9 times out of 10 you'll have a middle-aged woman sobbing into her mixing bowl. That lady is usually my mom. Met someone on a plane once who was on House Hunters. After she purchased her new house, the show came and taped her viewing that house. Then they took her to 2 other houses to make it seem like she was going to pick between the 3. In reality, she had bought a house before they even taped the show. Must be why they always get the house they pick instead of getting outbid by someone else. I've known the Long Island Medium's family since kindergarten. A lot of the minor plot is scripted and the house is not in a cul-de-sac like it appears in the intros. A friend of mine was on that old MTV show Next. 1 guy, 4 girls. She was the first date off the bus. She's really pretty and a super cool girl. She and the guy hit it off, and he offered her the second date or whatever. She accepted, but then the producers asked her to get back on the bus because they didn't get a good shot of her coming out of the bus originally. She went back on, waited for action. When she came off the second time, the guy yelled next. I have been to Carlo's Bakery, the bakery from Cake Boss. While there we learned that the wedding they were filming in Italy was completely faked, and they never actually got married. Kind of ruined the whole experience for me. I live 5 blocks away. Buddy is never there unless he's filming a commercial. My uncle played a local Native American historian on Sci-Fi's Goes Mine. He didn't know crap about the Native Americans of that area and only lived around there for about 8 years. He just passed away, but our family got a hoot out of seeing him BS through some TV. I auditioned for The Voice last year and it is a horribly long process. I was at the audition site for more than 5 hours. But the strangest part is that they put you into rooms by genre, even if you don't sing that genre. So an incredibly talented pop singer won't get in because they were placed in a country genre room. It's pretty odd. That is odd. I auditioned for The Voice as well last year and they didn't do the genre thing. We just stood in line for like 6 hours and then got grouped in rooms of like 8 random people. I used to work in reality TV. Almost everything is planned ahead of time. TV is expensive to make and no one has the time or money to make an entire show of real moments. Some shows are more real than others. Cop follow shows are usually pretty authentic. Anything with celebrities is probably all fake. Most dramatic phone conversations are fake. I did voiceover once as a nurse calling with bad news. If you want a free wedding, sign up for a wedding show with a host. They have a reputation to uphold, so they are invested in giving you a good event and you could get a lot of free stuff out of it. Cut. I'm sorry officer, but you were in our light when Daryl threw his crack pipe at you then dove over the fence. We're going to need him to put his pants back on then shoot the sequence again. Oh, and Daryl, this time when you get taste try to scream a lot more. Really get into the moment. My cousin went on Judge Judy once, sued her ex-BF for something or other, and the producers told her things like, make sure you tell her right away if the other person is lying. Don't wait until she asks you and don't make eye contact with her. It makes her mad. Having seen the show, she knew better and ignored everything they said. She won, but not after being berated by Judge Judy for being a liar even though she had all the evidence needed. I was called to be on a show like that. I bought a lemon car, and somehow a TV show got hold of my court filing. They probably figured it would be dramatic TV since the seller was a friend of the family, but frick that. The last thing I want is to get told off on TV. Finally, I have a story. When I was 14, I applied to one of those home makeover shows, although this show was just a room. First off, all the application process is crazy. First you have to write in, then you have to make an individual video and then a video with your whole family. Before they finally call you to tell you, they ask if you can set up a camera or something, which totally ruins the surprise. Then, once chosen, You have to leave home for like a week on your own dime. Luckily this coincided with my spring break so I didn't miss any school. At the start I did a consultations with the designers that lasted all of 2 minutes in reality, but took forever to film because we had to keep repeating stuff and kept being asked the same, very leading, questions. They put up all these lights to make the rooms much brighter than they actually are. Also the pieces used to attach the lights are still on our ceiling. Not sure how or why. The entire time I was on camera, I was being told what to do. I was definitely more of an alternative kid, but they put me in this preppy little skirt and braids and told me to be super overexcited about everything. I will say though, the reveal is very authentic. I loved what they did. The sad part though is that because of time and budget restraints, a lot of the amazing stuff doesn't last long. For instance, they made me this huge, beautiful custom desk, but the wood was never finished, just painted, and it started chipping off after like a year. Also my curtains, which I didn't have before, were basically stapled in place and they don't actually move. Overall an interesting experience and hey I got some free stuff out of it, which was nice cause my family was poor. A friend of mine tried out for American Idol and she said it always seemed like the people wait then they get their big shot in front of the TV judges. In reality it's a ton of steps and hours of waiting to go through loads of intermediate judges who decide if you're either TV material, the insane or terrible people, or actually good enough to move on. I was once profiled on show where they interviewed me on camera and also shot a lot of B-roll, shots of me doing stuff. First of all the interview lady couldn't have cared less about me until the word action. Then she was all concerned looking and acting like she was my best friend. Camera off, back to business. Then for the B-roll, they made me do all kinds of things to look sad, even though I was not sad at all. They made me, well, not like forced me, but you know, wanted me to wring my hands and look off into the distance. They actually said, now wring your hands and look off into the distance. It was clear I was a pawn in their production plans. Didn't care for the experience. I was on a tattoo reality show. It wasn't necessarily planned but I had to redo some scenes, like the introduction and follow-up interview. Everything else was authentic. I was on Antiques Roadshow, which I suppose is a reality show of sorts. It's actually pretty legit, but considering it's PBS that shouldn't be surprising. The main thing you don't realize is how long you wait in lines. Your ticket has a time on it to help control when you arrive so foot traffic isn't bad. You get there and wait for about an hour in line. At the front of the line you get your items checked. Each person gets 2, and these tickets direct you to the next line you need to stand in. I had a watch and some art, so I had tickets for the timepiece and Asian art line. After the first hour and a half of waiting, you wait in the main room. Basically how the setup works is that there's a small circle of banners and tables in the middle of the room which obscure the outside where all of the lines are directed. Everything is filmed in the middle of that room. You go through the line and when you get to the front an appraiser looks at your item. If they like it they go and talk to the producer to see if they'll film it. If they film you're taken to a small back room where they've got makeup and might make adjustments to your clothing. Like if you're wearing a branded shirt they'll make you change, but they actually advise you to wear neutral clothing if you're coming to the show. Then they do the interview after you sign the release. If your item is valuable they actually have security escort you out to your car. All in all it was pretty efficient and none of it seemed fake. It took a really long time, about 5 hours of mostly standing in lines. I'm so glad to hear it isn't horribly fake. I love Antiques Roadshow. Veneer. My family was on the Food Network for our restaurant once. Pretty much the entire process is fake. The producers faked scenarios so that there could be more drama and suspense in the episode. Even the portrayal of one day was actually spaced weeks apart, having my family members come dressed in the same outfit so that it seemed it was all in the same day. I don't know if any of you watched or remember the short-lived reality show My Life as Liz, but I was on it as an extra for a couple episodes. The first season followed her as an awkward teenager who despises preps and going to high school in Texas. The second season followed her when she moved to Brooklyn, New York to pursue art history in college. This is where I come in. My private art school, Pratt Institute surprisingly relished in the fact that MTV was going to be filming on campus and even allowed them to recruit extras from the student body. I think all they were thinking about was exposure. What I didn't know is that these extras were cast as her filler friends and the crew was only allowed permission to film outside of academic buildings. The friends that had got chosen let it completely consume them. I also knew Liz personally and every time she saw me she never remembered my name because I never had a speaking role. Needless to say, I was really disappointed in how fake the show actually was. The majority of it was scripted and it was supposed to show what going to art school was really like. Their portrayal of it was completely unrealistic and the scenes of her in class were shot in a completely different location. It frustrated me to think teenagers were going to watch this and think I want to move to New York and live a life like this. No you don't, because it is nothing like it is on TV. Most extras didn't get compensated for their time either. I'm glad I finally got to get this off my chest. My friend was on X Factor. He says that off camera, all Simon Cowell would do was smoke cigs and do push-ups. Haven't been on a show, but worked in TV. Lighting. Lighting takes forever. There are literally hours between takes. If there aren't, then the lighting was set up beforehand. That means that the stars have to stand in a very specific location during those impromptu scenes. They aren't impromptu at all. I saw one episode of The Bachelor where the couple decided to make out frick in the shower. It was one of those tub showers with the curtain. Well, the curtain was a translucent white with a purple tinted light behind so that the silhouettes could be seen in the act. This was the worst example of a staged scene I have ever seen in a reality show. I mostly do concerts, but got to do my first movie last year. Got called in as a specialist to program DMX for a dance scene. 2 fricking days. For a 15-minute portion of the movie. I was on the reality TV show Wife Swap almost 5 years ago. I was 11 at the time and my mom got switched to Arizona. Anyway, there are really no behind the scenes secrets. Most of it is manipulated in editing to make things more dramatic and twist our words around. But a behind the scene thing that is awesome is they buy you pretty much any food you want. I was on Come Dine With Me. Pretty big in the UK, the Basildon all-in-one special. I was the dude who cooked chips, cheese and gravy for shoots and gigs. Dave Lamb, the narrator, doesn't write his own stuff. People will only search your room if you want them to find stuff. Arguments are encouraged, and if anything is missed by the cameras, it has to be played out again a second time. Sometimes the camera crew will prompt you to do certain things at certain times. For example, guests didn't like me cracking my knuckles, which when tapped on the shoulder, I was told to perform. I have a friend who used to frequently see filming of Jersey Shore live because he was from Jersey. He says that they have scripts hanging above the camera and it's not really real. What is this blasphemy? I was on the show Trading Spaces Family on TLC. If you haven't seen it, basically you switch houses with a neighbor for a couple days and remodel one of the rooms in their house with a $1,000 budget, a designer, and a shared carpenter. On screen, they show just the families working, but behind the scenes there's like 6-10 other people that come in the room to expedite the process. That is, painting. Also, the catering was delicious and delivered right to the kitchen, and I was a fat little kid. Was in a club when Breaking Amish Law was being filmed in Vegas. Real bottom of the barrel reality TV. Anyway, the producers gave them the alleged Amish tons of booze and brought girls over to their table. The alleged Amish danced like freaking idiots and at one point danced with one of the go-go dancer type club employees. It was at the now defunct ACT at the Palazzo, so there were tons of people dressed in shocking and very suggestive outfits. I'd love to give you juicy details, but it was not all that exciting. Signed the release to be on TV and never even bothered watching the episode to see if I made it into the show. Can't be more fake than Amish Mafia. Approximately 80% of reality shows are made in post-production. Entire storylines are created literally from found footage mixed with what is called Frankenbites, which is where interview lines are created from pieces of a bunch of different interviews, so we can make anyone say anything we want. Also, little fun fact, if a cast member is a dong to the field producers while shooting, the editors will back up their team and make that cast member look worse when it comes to editing. Source: I'm a reality TV editor. I was on an episode of a show where people hunt for houses. Internationally, they film the show after the people have already bought the house. They just take everything out and have them walk through it like it's the first time they've seen it. Also, if you're watching and see any personal effects etc, it's automatically not gonna be the house or apartment they get. Producers, by default, pick the winners they want footage. Fairness in competition is not an issue. 2-minute challenge. You won the money in seconds, but it was boring. You can have the money, but do it again. If you win again, pretend like it's the first time. If you lose, pretend like you're devastated. You'll get the money anyway. Your time is running out. Time had already run out, but the contestant was popular with producers. You did it. You did it. You won. Are you excited? You beat the 2-minute mark. Actual elapsed time 4 minutes and 45 seconds. You lost, but it was boring. Try again. If you win and the footage is better, then you get the money. Have a do-over. Our setup has ruined this girl's chances. Should we give her a do-over? Answer. Number. She's not fun to watch anyway. A person wins $50,000 in the pilot. The series is shot with a new host. Bring back the pilot contestant again. I don't know if they got the original $50,000 in addition to the money they won in the series shoot. Our lawsuit still isn't settled from the last show we produced. Executive producer, get the cheapest of everything. Cheap props. Don't tell other crew if we buy one group lunch. Make them buy their own lunch. Keep lunch a secret. Cheap production. Cut costs. Drug addict crew are desperate, they will work cheaper. Charter me a helicopter. I don't feel like driving to location in Long Beach. I was on Kitchen Nightmares with my friends and family. We ate on the before day. Nothing at our table was fake, but I don't know about the kitchen scenes. Never watched the episode. We did get our food for free because we complained. Though, it was really crappy. The waiter seemed pretty nervous in front of all of the cameras though. Also, they just told us not to look at the cameras when they came by. I did briefly meet Chef Ramsay when I was taking out the trash for the store I worked at, which was next to the restaurant. He was smoking a cigarette. It was pretty cool. I just said, "Hey, chef," and walked away because I didn't want to disturb him. He said, "Hey, back." I was once a referee for WWE. All of the wrestling you see is staged. All of it. As many here have already stated, the reality part is pretty minimal. Very heavily scripted. The director would tell us to do things, and if she didn't like what she got, she'd have us do it again. Some notes of interest. They only had one camera, so for competitions they actually started each team at a different time so they could film us starting, then edited it together to look like it was all simultaneous. Same for finish times. The entire season was shot in 5 days, even though episodes released weekly, and they tried to make it look like a whole week had passed. One day they even had us bring a change of clothes so they could shoot 2 episodes. They were constantly trying to get us to badmouth the other teams, but everybody really liked each other. Hours of B-roll footage, and they would only use the 5 seconds where you finally give up and say something kind of vaguely negative after they've been badgering you the whole interview. You have been visited by the Doggo Beer Master. Comment delicious so you always have beer in your life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.